Will Glenn Close ever win an Oscar? Will she? Is it possible? Anyway, welcome. I'm John Stark, Mac the Movie Guy. Click subscribe. The usual, I'm not supported by anybody. I'm not supported by Big Water or Big Food or anything like that. I'm not going to try to sell you one of those subscription boxes. So, you're all safe here on my channel. And we're going to talk about The Wife. It's on Netflix, and guess what? It has audio description. Yay! Anyway, so it's the little things in life. I didn't watch this when it first came out. I don't know why. I just didn't feel like it. So I finally watched it. Netflix threw it up and is trying to push on me, and I was like, fine, damn it. Fine, I'll watch this film. It was different. It was different than what I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more dull and slow and dreary, but it wasn't. It's an interesting film because it's also newer. Depending on how old a film is, I feel more comfortable talking about spoilers, but this is kind of sort of like within the last 5 years, so I feel a little bit less inclined to jump into spoiler territory. And that makes it really hard with this film. So I have to give like a cursory statement about how the film is about a wife, Joan, played by Glenn Close, who's married to an author, Joe, played by Jonathan Pryce, who finds out he has just won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And sort of how their journey goes from there as they head out to accept the Nobel Prize in Literature. It explores, it does flashback in time. They do this really cool thing where they use Glenn Close's actual daughter, Annie Stark, to actually play the younger version of her in the past. Unfortunately, it's not Jonathan Pryce's son that plays him in the past, but it is her daughter, so that's cool. They look the same. And we've got a couple other familiar faces here. Max Irons plays their son, who also wants to be an author but feels like he does not get enough love from his father. And Christian Slater shows up as a guy that wants to write a book about this Nobel Prize winning author. So anyway, there's more to the backstory, there's more to the story, there's more. She starts sort of contemplating her life and her life choices, and did she make the right choices that led her to this moment. And it'll definitely be a film that makes you think one way or the other. I can see why this is a little divisive, because when we start picking apart somebody's life choices, it's really easy to sort of project ourselves onto Glenn Close's role and to say, well, I would have done that. I would have done this. I wouldn't have done that. You should have done this, and just sort of tearing it down bit by bit, which affects your ability to understand the film. But I think about the way that the characters laid out in the film, and I think mostly they answer the question of her narrative. I bought it. I bought her life choices and why she did certain things, where she was. I think they could have used a little bit more time in the flashback past just to establish Joan and Joe a little bit better as to what it was that she loved about him, instead of just saying that she loved him. Because it is kind of like a huge thing about this film, is this initial love that she feels for him. And it's kind of just mentioned. It's kind of just like googly eyes, like, ooh, that is cute, and then we just kind of move on. But it doesn't really feel like there isn't like that moment that spark. And I think having that spark would have made the film so much better. Like that real anchor that really ties in the relationship, that really defines why these two people are together. Why, after this series of choices that we see over the course of the film, why it all makes sense. Why it ever made sense. Because kind of by the end of the film, I kind of fall into the boat of people that say it doesn't really make sense. But that's only because they didn't really invest any time at the top of the film. The film is actually not that long. It's only about an hour and 40 minutes. So I rarely ever ask for a film to be longer. But if there was another scene that actually defined Jo and Joan's love earlier and why she was so passionate about it, I just feel like it was not as well established as it could have been. And it really needs to carry the film. That beginning to their relationship really has to be strong to go through the whole thing. And I can't tell you why, because you have to discover that for yourself as the movie moves forward. You might make some guesses. I'm not going to say the film is like... This is not like a Shyamalan twist at the end. I could tell where the film was headed, but yeah, it's really not that surprising or shocking. But it's also not obvious at the very front of the film. So I do have to kind of keep it a little bit closer to the chest and not reveal it this time around, and let you guys find it out for yourselves. So, no, he's not a murderer. This is not some like weird thriller movie or something where he turns out that he eats people or something. I don't know. It's just a drama. It's just a marital drama. Okay? It just has choices, life choices. So, you can go on this journey with these characters or not. I think Glenn Close does a terrific job. I don't know that this is her best work in her career, but it's Glenn Close, and she has a gigantic body of work. So I think this was the one where they thought she was going to win, where she actually came closest to winning. And everybody was like, oh, finally, she's going to win for the wife. And it just didn't happen for her. Jonathan Pryce is good in this too, because Jonathan Pryce is good in pretty much everything he does. And the two of them have this chemistry that works when it needs to, and also have the ability to bite each other with dialogue when they need to. So it's a very interesting dynamic back and forth, and the two of them carry the film. I don't really think anybody else does much. I couldn't relate to Max Irons as David at all. I just thought he was a whiny bitch. And even when they tried to like sympathize with him, there's like one scene where he like as a little kid, he's trying to see his mom, but she's busy. So the dad carries him away and he's like screaming bloody murder. He's just like, Mom! Mom! And I'm just like, what is wrong with this fucking child? Like, you think he's being taken down the hallway by like the Evil Dead. Like, it's just so, I'm like, this kid has been a whiny bitch his entire life. His entire life. He's not even in trouble. Like, it's not like he's being carried out of the room to like be like, to have the hell beaten out of him or anything like that. He's just being removed from the room to stop bothering his mom so she can work. It's the most ridiculous. It doesn't do anything to help his character. Like the one flashback we get of him as a kid, he's obnoxious as all shit. Just ever loving hell. And then he's obnoxious in real life. He's just an obnoxious little twat of a person. So and Max Irons plays him just sort of like with nothing. Like there's nothing interesting about him. And yet that's what he believes. He believes he's interesting. And I'm like, you are not interesting, sir. I'm sorry. This film did not write you interesting. This film wrote you to be obnoxious. And you are. Um, so, yeah, I didn't really like the whole, anything having to do with David was just sort of like, it's like, why is he here? Like, why is this kid in the film? I didn't get it at all. He was the biggest detractor for me. Both the way, it's not just how Max plays him, it's also how he's written. It's actually largely how he's written. I don't think Max Irons necessarily misinterpreted the character. I think the character just is so out of place. It feels like they wrote the film and they were like, you know what this film is missing? A son. Let's go back through. We're going to rewrite the film. We're going to plug in a son. And no, it does not need that. Yeah, it's a very odd narrative every time he's on screen. He's the least sympathetic character in the entire film, which says a lot. So, Christian Slater is also almost like a plot device in this film. He's not really a character. He just kind of comes in and out and provides information and then leaves. So it's a film that works as a character study that has characters that aren't characters, that are just sort of catalysts for characters. It doesn't really work for me completely that way. I like watching great acting, so I like showing up to watch Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce share the screen together, and both to have their nice moments together and to have their not nice moments together. All of that stuff works for me. The flashback stuff, I didn't have a problem with the acting. I just think there needed to be more of it, and it needed to be more clearly defined to help the story. I don't think this is a great script. I think this is a script that was helped by the actors being in the film. If we had had lesser actors in this film, nobody would have ever heard of the wife. If you had just picked two actors that were not Oscar caliber, I don't think anybody would know what this film was. So, it has a lot of possibility to it, but it's not the kind of script that would have broken into an Oscar race with different actors. I feel positive in saying that. So, that's my hot take. As far as audio description goes, it's largely a dialogue film, and they're dressed for the most part in modern times. There are some decent shots that kind of let you know of where they are, because they do travel, obviously, to Stockholm for the Nobel Prize ceremony. So they do go out a little bit into Stockholm. That's part of the travel. They're on a plane, so we get a description of the plane. And the final shot is of the plane flying, so we get that final establishing shot is done really well at the end. From the seen from the exterior of a plane as it flies off into I thought that was really well done at the end to kind of tie everything together. And then there's flashbacks, but I don't feel like the flashbacks necessarily embraced the time period. I don't feel like I was really entrenched in the fact that these characters are considerably younger than they are. So there's just some things that worked for me and didn't work for me, but for the most part, it focuses a lot on the character work that Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce are doing and highlighting out their acting, which is kind of what I said is like the whole reason to watch the film to begin with. So it helps to really bring together their performance by reminding you of their facial expressions when they stare at each other, when they glare at each other, when one of them seems in distress or something like that. So it does focus a lot on their acting choices, which is possibly the most important thing in this film. I don't think, there are mentions to their clothes, but it's not like a strong costuming movie. This is not something with like a ton of beautiful costumes. So I think possibly, even though I know what some people look for in audio description, and this will underwhelm them because it doesn't go too much into like, you know, that the flashback like of the period, immersing you in the period, or giving you tons of, you know, hair and costuming details or anything like that. It does really focus a lot on the choices that Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce make. And arguably that's why you're watching the film, is to watch two titans go at it for an hour and 40 minutes. So it's, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give it an award for audio description, but at the same time, where I think it falls short, I think it also has strength where it's most needed. So there you go. If it makes any sense, I have no idea, but those are my thoughts on the audio description. Anyway, I was slightly underwhelmed by The Wife, mostly by the script. There's two great performances. I don't know that this is a classic. Sometimes films get nominated for Oscars and then we go on and we just never talk about them again. I mean, when was the last time somebody talked about Blue Sky? Anybody? Anybody? It was nominated in the 90s. When was the last time you heard anybody mention Blue Sky until just right now? So, you know, some films they get an Oscar nomination and then they just right off and they just like a fart in the wind. They just go away. So I think The Wife in 10 or 15 years is just going to be a film where we just go, I don't know what that is. So there's really nothing special here except for the performances, and there are better films to highlight these actors and also watch them be great. So, yeah, I'm probably gonna buck the trend here, but I'm gonna go with I'm giving The Wife a C plus. I don't really think the script worked for me. I think when I break it down, I think the actors made it work, and that the script itself doesn't work. And if I had cast two lesser actors in this film would have revealed all of the problems with the script. But because Glenn Close and Jonathan Pryce are so damn good, they put up this smoke and mirrors that hides the fact that the script is really undercooked and really does not support a lot of the ideas and themes that it's trying to show you or trying to force upon you. Yeah. So, and there's not really much to direct here. It's mostly just conversations. So I can't really say much about the director. I think this all lied within the script and at the very beginning, at the conception stage. And it just did not come together. Anyway, that's it. That's my thought. Please click subscribe, and I have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who is narrating what. That's it. I will review something else for you guys and see you on the other side.